on.
Okay, excuse me. Welcome everybody to Portsmouth Coffee Talk PM. This is a new nighttime version of our Monday morning shows that most of you are hopefully are used to. But we decided to do some PM shows to capture some of the people that we might not capture in the morning. And it's probably to be more of a relaxed or more of a one-on-one conversation with some very intriguing people from the city of Portsmouth and from around that we've been wanting to get on for a while. And so here we are, and we hope that you enjoy the program this evening. But before we get started, first of all, I'd like to welcome the Slim Talk podcast listeners. We also doing a podcast on Slim Talk as we do this show tonight. So we want to welcome those listeners as well. But before we get started, the Colonel, Thomas Chapman, has a few words.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for everybody for showing up, and especially you, Mr. Horace, Mr. Savage. And so I'd like to say the views stated on this program are those of the host and those of our guests, and that is all. Not affiliated with anybody else. And then the other thing, I'm gonna put another disclosure up. If for those out there in Electron land, if you like what you're seeing and you want us to continue on, and we need your help, you can send an honorarium to Portsmouth Coffee Talk, P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23707. And now we can continue.
Yes, and you also can support us on our Cash App and Zelle. And I'll put those on our Facebook page. And I forgot to introduce who we are. For those who don't know, I'm James Slim Overton and co-host Leah Drake-Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman.
Good evening.
Leah?
All right.
Good evening. How you doing?
Wonderful. It's wonderful to be on in the evening and not 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's indeed no yawning this morning. Huh?
Exactly. Okay, well, I am extremely happy, pleased, feeling blessed with the guests that we have for this evening. And none other than Mr. Horace Savage, Jr. Mr. Savage has been making a difference in the city of Portsmouth and around the state of Virginia for many, many years. And I feel blessed to have known him since I was a little child. He's a man who has worked quietly but steadily to advance human understanding in Portsmouth. He has held so many positions in Portsmouth, and I might get them wrong if I try to list them in order, but he has been a student at IC Norcom High School. He was a student at Hampton University, where he received his undergraduate and his master's degree. He went into the Army. He came back to Portsmouth after the Army and came back to Norcom High School, where he became an educator at Portsmouth. He is, oh my God, he has done so much. He was an educator at Norcom, a teacher at Norcom. He went on to become an assistant principal, I think, at Harry Hunt, another assistant principal, and then at, was it Woodrow Wilson? At Woodrow Wilson. He went on to become an assistant superintendent for the city of Portsmouth. He became the clerk to the school board in the city of Portsmouth. Oh, it just goes on and on and on and on. He had a championship track team, a championship football team, and he's an actor extraordinaire. He appeared in many plays on the Norcom stage. Jane Eyre is one that comes to mind. And I read somewhere where he spoke at an event in Portsmouth over the community concert group, I think it was, and how one of the white gentlemen went out and said, he's a very eloquent speaker. And he's an eloquent speaker at all times. I don't care when you're talking with him, if it's casual or on a professional level, you get Horace Savage. Mr. Savage, I am so blessed to be able to introduce you today to those who may not know you, and I feel blessed to reacquaint you to those who do know you. Mr. Savage, welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk.
Thank you very much. And you have been very kind.
And you deserve every bit of it, believe me. Mr.
Thank you
Savage,
so much.
I think we'd like to start with you telling us about your time at Norcom High School. You knew that the guys knew that's where I was going. So I don't need to make any disclaimers. I want to know, what was it like for you as a student at IC Norcom High School?
Let's see. My memories of Norcom High School go back to the early 1930s. That was when I was introduced to experiences at Norcom, because I had a cousin who lived in New Jersey, but who liked the Portsmouth atmosphere and decided that she would like to spend some time in this area. And so she moved down here to live with her grandmother, which was also my grandmother. And she lived here in Portsmouth and attended Norcom High School during her junior and senior high school years. She was from Cape May, New Jersey, but her interest in other parts of the country flowed to Portsmouth, and she wanted the experience of living in a Southern atmosphere. So she used to carry me to Norcom High School with her on what was then, what did we call it? Not Labor Day, but May Day.
May Day.
Yeah. When the school had its May Day exercises. And she, for a couple years, carried me to Norcom High School down on Chestnut Street then, with her. So it was really a fascinating experience for me at that time. And from there, I came to the point where I had my own experience at Norcom beginning in 1938. 1938 was a signal year for Norcom because that was when the newest Norcom High School was built on Chestnut Street at the corner of South Street, right next to the original Norcom building.
Mm-hmm.
So my class was the first freshman class to go into that new high school in 1938. I had certainly a grand experience at Norcom High School. I thoroughly enjoyed the social life, the general atmosphere. I always thought the general intellectual context of Norcom High School was really something to be admired. Everything was so in place, so up to date, and done so well. I was really impressed as a student. And of course, all of the teachers were really high in my estimation. I enjoyed them all, and they all made a great impact on every student, just as they did me. So I had 4 wonderful years at Norcom High School, and I graduated in the midterm class of 1942.
Someone just asked Mr.
Coach,
Savage, who was the principal then?
The principal at the school when, during the years I used to visit there, and at that time was Mr. William E. Riddick.
Mm-hmm.
And the assistant principal was Mr. William E. Waters.
Right.
And there were 2 assistant principals there then, Mr. Waters and Mrs. Weaver.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a triumvirate there that really kept things moving in the right direction.
Was your mother teaching there when you were there?
How many teachers?
Was your mother teaching at Norcom when you were there?
No, she was not teaching there when I was in school. She taught at Norcom in the 20s and into the early 30s.
Okay.
I think 1933 was her last year teaching at Norcom. But so Norcom, I thoroughly enjoyed being in school at Norcom.
yeah, Coach, I heard you tell a story once about, since you mentioned about Norcom and you graduated from Norcom, and you can add to it, correct me. I want you to tell the other people about this story, but this is the story when you at Norcom, I think during the summers, you would work at the shipyard, or maybe after Norcom, you work at the shipyard, and you were satisfied. I guess that was a good job as far as you're concerned. You were satisfied to stay there and let that be your career. But having an educator as a mother, and as most Black families back then, their goal for their children was to attend college. And it took something, and it was an amazing story how she got you to sort of change your mind. Share that with our audience tonight.
Well, you're very kind to even suggest that I really had
No choice.
to say about the situation, which I really didn't. And I'll tell you why. My mother was a graduate of Hampton Institute. And of course, during my high school years, me and my sisters, we never knew anything other than we would finish high school and go to Hampton. Hampton was a fixture in my family on both sides. So when I graduated from high school, my mother had made arrangements for me to enter Hampton Institute. But when in January, after our graduation exercises, the news came out that the labor board at the Navy Yard was hiring. They were hiring, had dropped the age limit to 18 years. And among guys my age, the word was, and you don't have to put your age up. That was, man, they're hiring at the labor board. You don't have to put your age up. That was all I wanted to hear. So I went straight to the labor board and got myself hired as a classified laborer in the Navy Yard. Well, that was right after graduation, early in February. Well, my mother, of course, was upset with me about that, but she never gave up the notion that I would be going to Hampton. She had made all of the arrangements, but I told her, no, I'm not going to Hampton now. I'm going to stay in the Navy Yard and keep my job. And I did that. She had everything ready for me to go to Hampton. And the morning that I was supposed to leave, go to Hampton, she asked me, are you going to Hampton today? And I said, no, ma'am, I'm going to work. And I got on my bicycle and rode to the Navy Yard and went to work. Well, she was terribly upset. But the only thing I was interested in was keeping that job. And I really felt I had misgivings of a serious nature about disappointing her, but I thought I needed to be the man of the house, so to speak. Unfortunately, my parents were divorced, and I thought it was my responsibility to become the man of the house, and the opportunity was there. Well, Hampton at that time was on what they called an accelerated schedule. And they had streamlined the semester sessions to include what they called an intersession. And that intersession was tacked on to the end of the spring semester. So you had a portion of that semester that ran from January, February, and March. And then in April, there was this intersession. Well, it was thought that I would enter in the spring intersession. Well, as I said, the day I was supposed to go to Hampton, my mother asked me, are you going? No, ma'am, I'm going to Hampton. I'm going to work. Got on my bicycle, went to the Navy Yard. And when I got ready to check in, the leading man came to me and said, oh, Savage, don't you bother about checking in this morning. The shop master wants to see you. So you report to the shop master's office. So I began to wonder what in the world I had done, because when you had to go to the shop master's office, you had done something generally that required something of a disciplinary nature. So I went to the shop master's office. Mr. Watson, I'm Horace Savage. I was told to report to you. Oh, yes, Savage, come on in. And he said, I'm happy for you. He said, I've got all your papers here, your discharge from the yard, your check for the pay that you are due. And I want you to know that this action is without prejudice, which means that you will be able to come back when it's convenient for you to do so. he said, my congratulations to you for being placed on education leave. And I said, Mr. Watson, I didn't apply for any education leave. Mr. Watson said, I know you didn't. Your mother did. She went to the admiral.
Oh.
Well, the admiral at that time was Admiral Gygax. Slim, you may remember that name or may have heard of that name at some time in Portsmouth history. But he said, your mother went to Admiral Gygax and arranged this. And he gave me all of these papers, had my check, wished me well, ushered me out of the door. I went home, and when I got home, I said, Mama, how could you do this to me? I really wanted to stay in the Navy Yard for the benefit of the entire family. And she told me, I'm not ready for you to become the man of the house yet.
Okay.
So she called a taxi, put my, the taxi came, put my steamer trunk in the trunk of the taxi. We went to the Greyhound bus station and we took the bus over to Hampton Institute.
Mm.
And when I got off the streetcar at the campus entrance, one of the first persons that I saw welcoming freshmen to the campus and really doing some pretty good hazing at that time. One of the first persons I saw was Hudgens Keeling. Does that name ring a bell with anybody? You anyway, he was a Portsmouth boy who had graduated from Norcom at the same time I did, and he was already there. And he was there heckling me on my entrance into Hampton. So anyway, I did not want to be at Hampton, but I had no choice. And it took me a little while to become, to feel that I hadn't been done in, I guess you could say. And so I began to make a proper adjustment. But that was a difficult time for me. But the upshot is that that summer, when that intercession ended, I went back to the Navy Yard and worked that summer. And then I went back to Hampton that September. So I guess you could say that that may have been one of the first examples of affirmative action.
Indeed.
The admiral responded in a way that, put me in school. As a result of the power of his office. So I felt like something big had happened to me. I began to feel that way later, but I surely didn't feel that way when it first happened.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have been truly blessed that your mother impressed upon you to go to Hampton University. Because if you had not gone,
I didn't think my mother knew how to get in the shipyard let alone get to the admiral.
Get to the admiral.
And during the time that she was after me going to Hampton, she never let on that she was doing anything to force the issue. And I thought I was sailing through without any particular problem. But her advisor was the Reverend Harvey N. Johnson Jr.,
Oh, yes.
who was her pastor at that time at Ebenezer
Yes.
Church.
Oh, you
And
had no chance.
You lost, you had lost all the way.
and Deacon Jeremiah Green, who
Yeah.
was a Navy veteran and who had worked in the shipyard and was familiar with personnel procedures there. And so Deacon Green and Reverend Harvey and Johnson were the ones who steered my mother to Admiral Gygax. So I always had a high appreciation for Reverend Johnson, and I still have the Bible that he gave me.
Oh, he was quite a man.
Graduated from
Quite a
that
man.
school.
Yes.
And,
You know,
Deacon Green.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They were always big men.
Right, right.
you know, Mr. Savage, you know, that reminds me of a song, and it's I think the title is Patches. And it
Yes.
talks about mama's or daddy's old. I'm gonna paraphrase it. It says daddy's golden rule is to stay in school, but I'm saying your mama's golden rule was you to stay in school.
Absolutely.
So I'll paraphrase that. So yes, you didn't want to violate her golden rules. But as we were talking earlier, I guess I've been living across the street from you for 50 plus years now, and it's been great. And as Leah was talking about your resume about the Army, going to HU or HI at the time, and I've sort of followed that trip myself, going in the Army, coming out, going back to school. So we have had the almost the same, parallel journey, hits and misses across our own history. And I would tell you, I've been proud that I can say that you have always been, you and your wife have been pillars of our community out there in Cedar Grove, and there'll be another Cedar Grove ever out there that I can name of in this country. And I'm going to call out your daughter, Alexis. I know she's listening back there. Since she's retired, she can start writing a book about Cedar Grove. So you can get 2 thumbs up from me from that. So Alexis got a job now. But so what advice would you have for the young folks coming up now?
Well, I think it would be the same as the kind of advice that I got.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ongoing story. It's a consummation dearly to be wished.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to do it is to set your ideals as high as you can envision them. And that was one thing I admired about you, Colonel.
Mm-hmm.
And I never hesitated to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Always told you how much I admired your inspiration to pursue the educational process, and especially in the field that you chose. I thought it was an absolute wonder, and I always admired the tenacity with which you pursued your goal. And you did it so beautifully well that I would offer you as an example to anybody who wants to be somebody.
Thank you, thank you.
Congratulations to you for being. But certainly, it's worthwhile to remember that we as individuals, and I guess one of the things that I always, my family was not overly religious, but certainly religious to the extent that it was well known in our household that there were expectations that were expected to be met. And those expectations were based on the fact that we are divine in nature and that we owe a certain dedication to the source, that divine nature, and that we have a responsibility to honor that divine nature in the best way that we can. And that, of course, means that you have to live a certain way. There was never any doubt in my household that we would be expected to pursue a certain line of behavior, a certain line of aspiration, and a certain determination to pursue all of those other lines in a way that would produce the best results that we could attain. So I remember I got off track once in a while. I remember in the 4th grade, I got an F in conduct on my report card. And what did I do that for? My father at that time had a razor strap with little slits cut in the end of it.
Oh, yes.
And he knew how to use it very well. And he used to say to me, "This hurts me worse than it does you."
Oh, Lord, yes.
Oh, my goodness. He has lost it. He knows not whereof he speaks. But anyway, I think that whatever form the encouragement takes is certainly vital to the process. And there has to be an innate desire to do things and realizing at the same time that everybody's not cast in the same mold, and that everybody has to make some kind of a choice. And that choice should be made within a certain framework, and every effort should be expended to try to fulfill that particular goal. So I think that doesn't change. That doesn't change. The human mold doesn't change.
Hey, Coach, I want to, a lot of people now know you as an excellent speaker and a great wordsmith. And not too many people know, well, a lot of people do, but not people know today of your coaching. I want to tell you about my experience with you and coaching. Of course, I didn't play football. I wore the IC Norcom uniform, Leah, basketball uniform, but I didn't play football. But I remember before I got to Norcom, coming to a game, football game, and watching you out there on the sidelines. And I know most of your players would say you were tough, but you were teaching them how to be men, like most of the Norcom teachers were preparing us for the world that we were about to face. But talking about, I guess if you were tough on them, you had to prove you were tough. Because I remember most times if a play came your way and you were on the sidelines, you would get out of the way. But this particular game, I was there, a play came your way and you stood right there. And next thing I know, they were carting you off the field. But I guess you would say you didn't get out of the way fast enough, but I would say that you just stood there and took it like
ground,
you were
right?
trying to for your players. But I said that to say, you know, it was a lot more than coaching football, those young men, you know, and then you had them also in the classroom than just teaching them how to play football, preparing them. A lot of times they got them scholarships to go to school, but you actually were really preparing them for the life that they were going to face outside of school, especially during those times.
Yeah. One of the great things about sportsmanship, sports, and I think especially football, because of the nature of football, it is a violent, rough sport. It has its liability from a standpoint of maintaining and preserving physical well-being, but yet it has an attraction and a siren call that makes people willing to take all of the risks that go along with all of those things. And that is one of the great teaching elements of football in particular and athletics in general. The other sports that may not require the same kind of shall we say, abandon that football does, but there is still an element of commitment, devotion to what you're doing, the desire to excel, of course. And one of the great lessons that any football coach will say is that the lessons learned in football are transferable to life. And they really correspond and reflect the same kinds of lessons that are required to succeed in life. There has to be determination. There has to be commitment. There has to be belief, the faith that you can. I won't forget one of the great football teams that Norcom had in its history was the 1968 football team. that it was my privilege to coach. And that team won 9 games that year.
Mm.
And we lost 1 game to Phoenix High School in Hampton. And we missed winning the state championship because of that 1 loss. But we were runner-up for the state championship that year. But to show you how things can work when you, or how they don't work, when you kind of get off of your planned schedule. We were an excellent team. But those guys, when we would load on the bus to go to the stadium, they would begin singing "Only Believe."
Mhm.
Only Believe. And they would rock that bus singing "Only Believe" into the stadium and get off and warm up, only believing. And they played that way. But you know, the game that we lost, and this is a lesson too, and I think all of us, myself and every one of those members of that particular team to this day will admit that the thing that happened to us that caused us to lose that game was that we thought we were so good. We called our offensive team the machine. Our defensive team was the spoilers.
Mm.
And we were so confident that we thought we could score anytime we wanted to. And Phoenix, of course, was doing everything they could to make sure that didn't happen. And I think we just relaxed a little bit. And even late in the game, the attitude was, guys, when the huddle said, well, that's all right, man, we can score. And guess what? They didn't score. They couldn't score. And I think I always look at that as an indication that you've got to keep your foot on the pedal.
Amen.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we took our foot off the pedal a little bit that night because we were so, but that inspiration of Only Believe was their ticket to winning 9 football games and losing only 1.
Mm.
So on an overall basis, yes, in life, we have to learn how to be, how to bounce back. We have to learn how to change our methods, the way we do things when we need to, just as we do on the football field, or even in a race, if you're on the track team. So I applaud all of the young men who, the individuals who participate in athletics. And I think they really reap the benefits of the lessons that you have to learn to participate in athletics well. And you have to transfer those same lessons to life. Stick-to-itiveness, all of that
Mm-hmm.
is just as valuable in life as it is on the football field. And I never call the players anything but men.
That's right.
Good morning, men.
Mhm.
All right, men. I never call them players or kids or any of the, the standard descriptions of young people. They were always to me men.
Mm.
And I think they appreciated that.
I know they did. And that should be passed on to many coaches of today who sometimes talk to the young men on the wrong side of their mouths, saying
Yes.
things that maybe they should not say, thinking that is a method of encouragement when it's not a method of encouragement. So I applaud you and appreciate the fact that you did identify them as men. And I wish it would happen today.
Yeah, well, my language was always
I know,
language.
always.
Language.
Someone is just asking here, Coach, they want to know, did you coach with Bob Smith?
With Bob Smith, yes.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Bob and I started teaching at Norcom the same year,
Mhm.
1950.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And this
I
person,
had I had gotten out of the Army and gone back. But Bob was working at in Williamsburg at the time, the Williamsburg school system. And we came to Portsmouth the same year.
and this person also, Coach, wants to know if you could share the names of some of your players on your football team.
Oh, yeah. The golden boy, in my estimation, was George Moody.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
My coach.
I called him nothing but golden boy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He could do all things well.
All things.
And Leslie Harding,
Yes.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Quarterback.
the quarterback
Mm-hmm.
of the 1960 team that did win the state championship.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing that has been most complete for me is that there are so many of the young men that I had in school. We're still together.
Yes.
I see Leslie in church every Sunday, and many of the others that I see from time to time. Martin Bullock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We decide whether or not the president should send airplanes to Ukraine or not. We're working on that.
And I know Martin has the advice for you as well, huh?
Yeah, so, and there are many others that I still have a close relationship with. And I am so very grateful to them. I tell them that they made me famous. When we won the state championship in 1960, nobody enjoyed holding up and looking at the big headline in the newspaper than I did. Savage defense wins state championship. So I tell them, you guys made me famous. So, thank you.
And and it's interesting, Coach. With your coaching and your teaching, you were a teacher of the sciences. But not only that, you played an instrument as well. Now, did you play this instrument in the band, or did you just learn it on your own?
No, I took piano lessons when I was growing up.
Your mother was a pianist, right?
Yes, she
Mhm.
was an excellent musician. So I took piano lessons, and that is where I think I fell victim to peer influence.
Mm.
Um, when time came for my piano lessons, and my teacher would come to the house, and I would be up on Truxton School ground playing hot ball or baseball, whatever was in season,
Mhm.
And I got to the point where when my younger sister would come up to the playground calling me to come to my piano lesson, I would run and hide.
Mm.
And I got to be just downright obstinate to my mother about whether or not I needed to continue to take piano lessons. So I persisted in that behavior of missing my piano lessons to the point that she eventually decided, well, if you're not going to take these lessons and be interested enough to continue with it, I'm not going to continue to pay the teacher to come here and you not show up.
Mhm.
So that ended my instrumental music.
Mhm.
I could I could play a little, but that's all water under the bridge. I don't have that talent anymore.
Well, you sing in St. James Choir. I've heard you there.
Oh, well, there was a time when I thought I could sing.
Well, I can testify that you can sing,
Singer
okay?
with we had at Hampton. We had there was a four of us, a quartet of us, who thought we could sing, and these were guys who were in the men's chorus and the choir and all that. And we had a little pop group that we were quite proud of. We thought we were, and we used to do a lot of the doo-wop music, and but we sang well enough to win the Delta Jabberwock competition.
Okay.
So we thought we were reasonably good singers.
You know what? I have this vision now of you being Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes.
Well, my favorite song was the Orioles. Remember the Orioles?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Orioles sing
Mm-hmm.
"It's Too Soon to Know."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was my favorite song. I was courting my wife at the time, and
Yeah.
does she love me? It's too soon to know. Can I believe her? Oh man, I I thought, but and we sounded good though. We really sounded good.
It worked, didn't it? You fell for it. So you
Yeah,
got something going on.
yeah.
That's all
Yes,
right. That's
sir.
all right. But you know what? You've as I continue to listen to you, some of the things that you talked about, you know, when I talk about the teamwork and how it went with football, and I'm also tying some of that back from your military days. And we in the militaries, we talk about teamwork, and nobody is set out there by themselves, and we have more strength in numbers. And in life we always have setbacks, but we change, as you say, change your tactics, get off the floor and keep going. And I see that in your life and what you're talking and what you've done with the kids. You may have lost the state championship, but you continued on.
Exactly.
And the thing is, you're instilling in those young men, and with the idea is saying, I'm not going to call you boy or son or whatever. You're a young man. So when you go out here in society and you're representing your family, Norcom, and whatever, you're a young man in society, and you need to act that way. And so that's a life lesson that our kids nowadays need to know, especially a lot of young men that are out here that don't have the direction that they should or should have gotten.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. And there's no better example of the fulfillment of ambition that I see in this area than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would certainly hold you up to anybody for that accomplishment. So that's a song that we have to keep singing.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let that die. Let us march on.
Till victory.
Till victory is won, and
Amen.
victory is won.
That's right.
When we begin to feel within ourselves that we are making some kind of advancement.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, Coach Savage, we're coming close to an hour now, and we try to keep it that way. But just wanted to bring up one more thing, and we talked about it when we talked the other day about how it was back in the day with many people in the neighborhoods, the professionals, the teachers, how they used to get together and have a social life. A lot of it might have been sparked by the Jim Crow era, but I think a lot of it was still genuine as far as the friendships that were had by many people of different communities. And I used to admire, I used to sit back and watch all the different people come together to even during a time when things weren't quite equal for everybody. But when you all came together, it was all equal. It was something that we might be missing a little bit of that today, as far as backing each other. We talked about it might have been some disagreements, but when it all came down to it, when we had to come together for a common goal, that was no problem. And we don't see that. And talk about, I mean, your experience with that, and different communities, different professions, and people getting together, sometimes just to have a good time, to relieve the stress of just the times.
Yeah, well, I think that we have to, when we reflect, the path that we have followed. We have had to follow much of it. We had to conform to because of outside pressures. The system had its knee on our necks.
Mm.
But perseverance is a quality that has to remain one of the strong, everlasting goals of all of us who aspire to accomplish certain things. And I think that's reflected in some of the names that we remember in the community. Your father, for example. I belonged to a couple of organizations with him, and the organization was highly civic-minded. It was made up of what we would call young professionals, businessmen in the community. And some of the most violent arguments took place in meetings at which time was taken to analyze, still, turn inside out, and do whatever else was necessary with ideas that were considered to be absolutely essential to the benefit of the entire community. That required agreement. And agreement in many instances was difficult to come by.
Mhm.
And that's the way it should be. Because out of the many different approaches and ideas that are offered has to come that one point of agreement that determines what your course is going to be. So yes, people, we find it necessary to compete with each other with ideas and how ideas can be not manipulated, but certainly modified to take into consideration the ideas of others. But yet and still, the end result is that one consummate agreement that comes out of it. And a lot of that happened in Portsmouth. When your father and others like him were fighting for equal salaries for Black teachers
Mhm.
in the city. When I was joining hands with them, trying to get the same amount of money that the white coaches were getting for a coaching stipend. So sure, we had disagreements about how best to do that, but certainly the disagreements turned into successful conclusions because people were willing to hammer ideas until they were beaten to something that was of benefit for everybody. So definitely there has to be a willingness to agree, to disagree, and to disagree to agree. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I think you can understand the undercurrent that goes along with that.
Mhm.
So a lot of that happened in Portsmouth.
Bottom line, in the end, it was what came out of it was best for all. So that was one of the differences. And I hope some of the leaders that might be watching this
Take heed.
will take heed.
Yes, take heed. Yes.
Oh, have
So,
mercy.
Coach Chavez, we really want to thank you for coming on and being with us for this hour. And we really appreciate the stories you had to tell, your wisdom. And we hope to have you back on again. And it's customary for each one of our hosts to have closing remarks. So we'll do that at this time.
Coach Savage, my
Yes,
friend,
ma'am.
my friend. I'm proud to
Yes,
say my friend. Coach Savage, you know, you achieved many firsts in the city of Portsmouth. And I read somewhere where you said that you did this because you've done things because you had to do it. And I'm thankful that you did it. I'm thankful that I've known you all these years. I'm thankful for the wisdom that you shared with us. And I just look forward to having many more conversations with you. Now, after some of the youngsters saw your last video when you were at Norcom High School, they said, he remembers the alma mater. I said, and you don't know it. So, Coach, just for the sake of these young people who may come on to see this, do you mind sharing how many years young you are?
I'm 96 years old.
96 years young. Your memory is much better than
Hey,
mine would
did you
ever
hear
be.
me?
96 years young. But Coach, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so very much. And I really want the young people to see this so that they can get a glimpse of what a real man is. They'll see it when they watch this video. And I just say thank you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you so much. And let me say, without reservation or hesitation, to each one of you, that my feeling is the same for each of you. I admire you. I honor you. I appreciate your success in your personal lives. I appreciate the contributions that you have made in your efforts to build stronger and better community relationships.
Yes.
And especially your concern about youth and the steps that need to be taken by the adult community to help the youth of the community become stronger and better.
Yes.
So I thank you for considering me and for the opportunity to share this experience with you. And I would only hope that I have made a positive contribution in some small way.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mr. Savage, I also like to echo what Leah said, and on a personal note, and I'll speak to my two brothers, Michael and David, that will say that you have been, and is now it's 9 decades plus on this earth. And looking at our neighborhood, Cedar Grove, You were probably the one of the founding guardians of the neighborhood that has helped raise us. And there's an old cliche: it takes a village to raise a child. And thank you for what you've done to help raise us to be better citizens of this country. And you've always been a role model. And I remember, when my parents were here, my dad was always saying, look across the street. There's Horace getting in the car, going doing his thing, and he's always got pressed pants.
Always.
And,
Always.
And we would always laugh about that. And he'd be in his shorts and stuff like that. And my dad would always get on me because he always said I dress like a bum sometimes. But I said I'm who I am. But I just want to say thank you for what for the role modeling that you've done for your 9 decades on this earth, 9+ decades. And we look forward to getting to your 100th, celebrating your 100th birthday.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, in the words of Shakespeare, "'Tis a consummation dearly to be wished."
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? You know how I feel about all of you who grew up in this neighborhood of ours. The way that you stick together, you come to each other's assistance in times of stress, in times of happiness and joy,
Mm-hmm.
the birthdays and everything else. And I tell you, you are more of an example than you have been any kind of a disappointment. There's nothing about the whole group of Cedar Grove youngsters that came along, but is not the best representation that we could have.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, and Coach Savage, and we really appreciate it. And we want to thank everybody for watching, and stay tuned to the Portsmouth Coffee Talk PM as we continue on and try to get on pillars of our community. We're looking forward to trying to get Emery Fields, Dr. Joseph Knight, and a lot of other people that are here, that they can offer a bit of their wisdom, the experiences of their lives that might help someone coming up now. And and that's just the purpose for us. But don't forget, we're still on Monday mornings, every Monday morning at 6:30 a.m.
At the wee hours of the morning.
In the wee hours of the morning, and we'll definitely be there every Monday. And we want to thank you again, and stay tuned to both of those times, in the morning and the PM, especially the PM, because the PM is going to be a little bit more personal, I think, at least in the beginning, as we talk to the people who have a lot to offer. So thanks again. We appreciate you. Much
Thank you.
love to you.
Thank you. Yes.
And Alexis, if you're still back there, I talk to Alexis every day, telling her to turn off the radio, and my computer Alexis. Let me get that straight so people don't.
Well, you all are doing a wonderful job, and I applaud you, celebrate you, and certainly wish you the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations.
We love you,
Well,
Coach.
indeed. Thank you.
Yes.
We
Yes.
love you.
And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
Our community.
In our future.
and the Colonel's the only one that had this cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're so used to having it in the morning. Here's my.
And I have ginger tea tonight.
Okay.
Thanks,
Coach,
everybody. Take
thank you
care.
so much,
right,
Coach.
thanks.
Love you, Coach.
All right, thank
Love
you
you
all.
guys. Take care.
Bye, Alexis.
Bye-bye.